Good evening and welcome to the Select Board regular meeting for Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. The first thing on our agenda is executive session, but I'm going to begin with a roll call. Derek?
Here.
Chris?
Here.
Sam?
Oh,
You here?
yeah, let's go into executive session.
Oh, just a roll call right now, Sam. I'm just doing a roll call right now.
Oh, yes. I'm
Dennis?
here.
Yes.
So I'll be looking for a motion to go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056H, which is consultation with a code enforcement officer.
So moved.
Thank you, Sam. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, and all in favor?
I'm going to
Oh.
recuse myself, Kayla, because I was the one that wrote the NOV.
Okay. Hi, we are back from executive session, and I would ask for a motion to exit executive session, please.
So moved.
And a second? Thank you. And all in favor? Okay, and that passes. I did already call our meeting to order. I can do that again. So this is the Select Board regular meeting of Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. We do not have approval of minutes, so I'm going to go right to new business, which is land use enforcement history and request for authorization to proceed with a court action. And what I'd be looking for from the board is a motion to authorize Bernstein Shore to initiate judicial enforcement under Rule 80K.
Second?
I need a motion first. Do you want to be my first? Now I'll take a
Yes.
second. Okay. And all those in favor?
Madam Chair, if I could just request that the motion be amended to include the names of the parties of the violators in the action. In this case, it would be the Roma Farm LLC, Todd Roma, and Jessica Dobson.
All right, so Sam, since that was your motion,
Yes.
are you okay with amending
Yes.
it to include language of Roma Farm LLC, Todd Roma, and Jessica Dobson? Okay, and are you okay with the second? All right, all those in favor? And I'll make a note that you have recused yourself.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to
Thank
the
you, Madam Chair.
next thing, which is,
Pardon me,
sure.
is there room for people's votes, so like, to talk about this? This affects my property and my rights.
Can you step up to the podium?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments only.
I'd first like to ask if, my name's Todd Roma, if anyone else had, anyway, I'll get into this. This decision here affects my property and my rights. I'm speaking tonight to correct the record in place to set a full set of facts before you. The memorandum requesting authorization to pursue litigation under Rule 80K omits critical information. I want everything said tonight to be clear and complete, so there's no confusion later about what you were told before making a decision. First of all, we are still hosting limited seasonal private events on our property. We're doing so because there's no ordinance in the town that prohibits private events, renting one's property, having a tent, porta potty, or temporary signage. This has been confirmed repeatedly by the town's own actions and inactions. No fine has ever been issued, no enforcement order ever been served, and similar activities occur throughout Raymond without enforcement. The Zoning Board of Appeals did not cite a specific ordinance that we violated. Instead, it relied on interpretation and opinion. After the process ended in spring, months passed with no follow-up from the town. During that time, we repeatedly contacted the town, including the former town manager and select board members, asking one basic question: please identify the ordinance we allegedly violated and explain what enforcement, if any, would occur. We received no response. Because nothing happens for months, and because we were continuing the same activities without being cited or fined, we formally demanded that the town either identify the ordinance in writing or refund the appeals we had paid. Only after making that demand did we receive any response at all. On October 24th of 2025, we received an email from attorney Grady Burns, who represented Code Enforcement Office during the ZBA hearing. That email contained a draft consent agreement demanding approximately $15,000 in permanent restrictions on our property. We were never contacted by the town prior to that email. We were never invited to discuss it. There was no negotiation, no meeting, no explanation, and no indication that the Select Board or town manager had authorized it. We simply were denied due process. A consent agreement does not simply appear in a landowner's inbox. It's a required process, and the landowners must be involved. That process never occurred here. That's why we did not sign the consent agreement. It was not a refusal to cooperate. It was absence of any lawful process in which to cooperate. Because the consent agreement appeared without explanation, we filed the Freedom of Information Act asking a single narrow question: who authorized the consent agreement and when? The town did not answer. Instead, after weeks of silence, we were told it would take more than 10 hours and require a $100 deposit simply to identify who authorized it, despite FOAA allotting 2 hours of free staff time. Now we're in Superior Court seeking that information. While that FOAA case is pending, the town pursued a separate track. The Planning Board began drafting a banquet hall and private events ordinance that was clearly aimed at our property. That draft ordinance itself confirms a crucial fact. There's currently no ordinance that prohibits what we do. If such an ordinance already exists, there would have been no need to draft a new one. That ordinance was abandoned last week after public scrutiny. Now, the day after, the town manager is asking the board to authorize litigation under Rule 80K. Rule 80K assumes that the town's factual and legal position is settled. It is not. There's still no cited ordinance violation, no disclosed authorization for the consent agreement, and an active FOAA case in Superior Court seeking transparency on those exact issues. This enforcement is based on a single neighbor complaint, not a townwide policy or consistent enforcement. Other properties host larger and more frequent events without interference. Selective enforcement based on one complaint is not lawful and it's not fair. Proceeding tonight would mean authorizing litigation while fundamental questions remain unanswered. It would place this board in a position of escalating a dispute before the factual and legal record is complete. Under these circumstances, the matter is not procedurally ripe for enforcement and should not move forward.
Thank you for your comment. All right, we are now moving on to C, approval of liquor license renewal application.
What about B?
Oh, I'm sorry, B, next steps on recall process. I apologize.
You want me to kick it off?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
So in your packet was a summary memo sort of outlining the chronology over the past couple weeks. So I'll just kind of briefly go over it. A recall vote for the 2 select board members was brought before the town. The required number of signatures to place the recall question on the ballot was met, and the recall election was held. Following that, Select Board member Dennis Morris filed a lawsuit seeking to enjoin the special election or alternatively prevent removal in the event the voters elected to recall him. The lawsuit asserted the state removal statute, which allows removal upon conviction of a crime against the municipality while in office, superseded or limited the town's recall ordinance. Mr. Morris filed an ex parte without notice to request a TRO, temporary restraining order. The Superior Court denied that request, finding that Mr. Morse failed to meet the legal standard for such relief, including demonstrating irreparable harm, a balance of harms in his favor, or that the requested relief served the public interest. The court denied the TRO and allowed the election results to stand. The court noted that Mr. Morse could pursue further legal arguments after the election regarding the interaction between state law and local ordinance. However, Mr. Morse elected to voluntarily dismiss the suit. The town's consent was not required for dismissal, and the town consented and waived recovery of the $225 as a courtesy, and the litigation has concluded. So also in your packet is a memo from the town clerk outlining the proposed timing and date for the next steps of the recall election pending the certification of results, which the board will take action on tonight. There's also a memo from the town attorney summarizing the legal process and our next steps. And then obviously, all of the publicly available documents have been put in the packet so the public can view those. So I guess I can kick it off maybe to Mel, who will talk about her memo and her recommendation, what the plan is after that. And then there are 2 actions that the board will take tonight.
Thank you.
Actually,
I'll
I'd like a point of correction, clarification.
go ahead.
I notified the town manager that that wasn't accurate, and what he just read proves it. It said the judge said after the election, I could appeal it. We actually filed the case after a public hearing and said we were going to file the case after the public hearing. That was a public, and the lawyer said after the meeting, we would try to meet. And actually, Kayla, you're the one that made the recommendation that we met with the town lawyer, and we were going to file it. So that was public notice, and it was after the public hearing, not after the election.
Correct.
Those 2 things I want to clarify for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I would ask if it's okay, and as long as Mel can be heard.
If I
You're good.
Okay,
I can
thank
sit
you.
here. Okay. So I wrote a memo in the packet. I'll just kind of summarize it. Upon SelectBoard's certification of the election results, there will be a vacancy on the SelectBoard. And then my thoughts were, since that vacancy leaves the SelectBoard at an even number, which could be problematic in decisions, it makes sense to fill that vacancy as quickly as possible. So I have, even though the attorneys have said that the election does not need to happen within that 30 to 45 day time frame that's mentioned in the ordinance, it's kind of strange wording. I mean, why is there a range of time if the interpretation is that there's only a deadline? So I have coordinated with all the necessary departments and found a potential election date that would work within that 30 to 45 day time window. So I propose that the special election will be held on Tuesday, February 17th, just like the December election date that we used for the recall election. This timing avoids any conflicts with the school day and with any recreation programming. Additionally, Title 30A, Section 25284E allows for the Select Board to shorten the window of the availability of nomination papers and the clerk's deadline to receive completed nomination papers to as short as a 24-day window. So that allows you to shorten it to as little as 10 days for potential candidates to circulate petitions for signatures, and to have the due date for those be as close as 14 days prior to the election date. The timeline that I have laid out below in my memo is proposed to use as much of the 35-day time frame between tonight and my proposed election day, and balances the needs of potential candidates and voters. So if we do go with the Tuesday, February 17th as a special election date, tonight you will certify the results, and I would ask for a motion to authorize the shortening of the nomination process. And I have a form here for you to sign for that. Tomorrow, first thing tomorrow morning, I could have nomination papers available for any potential candidates. Candidates will then have 14 days to collect 25 signatures in support of being included on the ballot. The due date for those papers would then be Tuesday, January 27th at 6 p.m. when the office closes. I would take one extra day to validate the signatures that are turned in at 6 p.m. on that date and to create the ballots. And then on Thursday, January 29th, I could start absentee voting at the town office, and that leaves 10 business days for people to come to the office and vote in person as absentee ahead of the Tuesday, February 17th election day. I would even extend the deadline to request and or receive an absentee ballot to Friday, February 13th, to add an extra day in there. Typically, the deadline is the Thursday before any election day, so that clerk and staff can do all the necessary preparations for election day. But since there is such a tight turnaround, we've all agreed that we would extend it through Friday, February 13th for in-person absentee voting. So.
Okay, well, it looks like we have 2 motions to consider, and I'd ask if there are any questions or concerns about the motion to certify the municipal recall election results.
I think you have to have a motion, have it on the floor before we can discuss it.
Okay.
So I would make a motion that we certify the municipal recall election results as presented by the clerk.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Derek? All right, is there any discussion on this? Okay. All those in favor? I'll note Sam as a no. That still passes. I would like to take a moment to thank Dennis Morse for his service, including well before his tenure on the Select Board as a chief on the Budget Finance Committee meeting. Your service to this town is commendable, and I thank you very much. All right, so in order to discuss the shortening of the nomination process, I would ask for a motion.
I'll make the motion that we authorize to shorten the nomination process form attached as presented by the town clerk.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion on this?
I think
Yeah,
we can do
you
that.
can, yeah, absolutely.
Peter Levitt, 2 Levitt Road. Where to begin? Okay. I guess my question would be to the Select Board. What is the urgency of this special election? Number 1, legal opinion, the election does not need to be held within 30 to 45 days. Regardless of what was said before, we either follow our town attorney's guidance or we don't. That's my understanding. Number 2, an even number of board members with a voting quorum can occur at any meeting. I believe we have one tonight. Conflict with school day and rec programs is avoided if the election were held in June, along with the regular scheduled election. No cost to the taxpayer for a special election. No need to shorten the period for individuals to be nominated and get papers in. And I guess lastly, what I'd say is that from my perspective, and I would think anyone who's knowledgeable of elections would have to agree that the timing of an election has some effect on the outcome of an election. And as an example, Mr. Morse got 461 votes in June. He got 282 votes to recall him in December. The timing of elections matters, in my opinion. Thank you very much.
Is there any other public comment?
I'd like to just echo what Peter said. I don't think that there's an urgency that we have to speed this process up. Again, we're having a meeting tonight with the 4 representatives. Looks like it's business as usual. So I would be against, shorten this window. I mean, 10 days and then 14 to gather signatures. We're kind of putting, both the candidates and the office workers at Town Hall in this, rush mode. And I'm not sure that the reasoning is, justifies it at this point. I think we should, take the allotted time, if not a little bit more, let this thing go through as the process was, described. And unless there's some kind of real moving, reason to do this earlier, which I have not heard yet, I would be opposed to it as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis Morse, 340 Cape Road. I'm not opposed to waiting until June myself, but quite frankly, the state recommends 30 days for secret ballots, for absentee ballots. And I think it would be a very large disservice to the citizens of Raymond who might be in college, who might be away on vacation, who might be snowbirds, to make it 2 weeks. Again, perhaps if people really thought about the urgency, and for the lawyers to say that it's really just a 30 to 45 day just to call an election, not to hold it. It's pretty clear that they don't see the urgency either. And personally, 30 years I think I've been watching select board meetings. I've never seen a 3-2 vote. I've seen a few 4-1s, and I've been on the one a few times. But I think it's ridiculous to cut it shorter, hurt the citizens who may want to do an absentee ballot. Anyone have any trouble with mail? 10 days? It's a joke. And I really would have preferred to have a couple options for everyone to look at tonight as opposed to what's convenient. Thank you.
Bruce Tupper, 118 Valley Road. I have to echo Dennis's concern with the mail. We know that we have huge problems right now getting and receiving mail. About once every 2 weeks, I get a stack that big in my mailbox. That's dated from 3 weeks before, 4 weeks before. So what's the problem in letting people have time to actually get their ballots in the mail and have time to return them? That would be my concern, that we're actually cutting that short, too short.
Grace Levitt, Levitt Road. I'm adamantly opposed to this time frame. I know that I'm quite sure it affected the outcome in December on the recall election. I suspect that it will affect the outcome here. We want to be sure people have time to consider being a nominee and to talk with folks and to campaign if necessary, as well as the other things that have been mentioned as far as absentee voting. You're talking about February. All we need is one good-sized blizzard, and that will wipe out days for anybody trying to get into the office, if it could even be open. Not to mention the mail concerns. There is no need to rush this. It should be done thoughtfully. There have been a number of select board meetings over the last couple of years where somebody was absent and there were 4 people. And so that is not a problem. Yes, should there be 5 and should the seat be filled at some point? But let's give this some time for people to think and to talk and to communicate and be sure they have access to voting in whatever way they need to vote. Not to mention February is another school break. How many families are away? How many families will have the time beforehand to think about voting, to be a candidate, to be here? I imagine they already have travel plans if they're traveling somewhere. So this just seems like a needless move on my part, and I hope on the part of many. Please give it adequate time. Certainly June is fine. If it needs to be sometime sooner, at least give it some more time, much more time, for people to consider being a candidate, to talk to one another, and to take on a very important role. And I just want to end by thanking Dennis personally for trying to get answers to questions. More on that later. Thank you.
Frank McDermott, 2 McDermott Road. I'd like to second the suggestion of holding the election in June. My real concern is absentee voting. I'm leaving the end of the month to go to Arizona for a month. Probably won't be able to vote. I have a son and daughter-in-law who are in Arizona for the winter. It took 8 days to get an absentee ballot from here to their home in Arizona for the last election. There are, as has been said, there are many snowbirds. There are many people on vacation. You are taking away their right to vote. If you have it in June, you're going to save money. and everybody will have a chance to do their campaigning for the seat, and we will get a much better result.
David Brown of Tenny Hill Road. I'd like to build on to some of those things that have been said, all primarily related to the mail and other things. Advertising. How do we get advertising out there? And the town relies on the Wyndham Eagle, and historically that's been a pretty good paper. It's a good paper, and it has a lot of information. But I just spoke to my carrier yesterday. We haven't had a Wyndham Eagle delivered to us since sometime in December. And I asked him, can't you get somebody to prioritize those? He said, cannot. He said, I took a week off, and when I came back, there were 600 packages, and we were behind. He said he has a pallet that has, and they're stacked in his pallet in order. Somehow they stack the Wyndham Eagles, and they save them. And last year, when this same thing happened, we got them in order. Somehow they pulled them out and give us, okay, here's 6 weeks ago. Here comes 5 weeks ago. And eventually we caught up for a while, and now here we are back again. So the town relies on that. The town will put something on their website. The town has a Facebook page, and you can see that very few people look at the Facebook page. There have been people during the previous thing that asked, what's going on? On that Facebook page, they got no answers as to what was going on. They got answers when they went to a different Facebook page that's around the town, that's a private page, which isn't a very good source because it's not completely unbiased. I myself put out signs. You may have seen some signs beside the road. I think I was probably the only person that did. And I was battling with snow plows and theft of my signs. I only had 8 or so, but even with that small number, I had a couple of thefts. I replaced one. But with the snow, one was intentionally plowed in. Others just the tip of the plow pushes the snow, and these signs aren't that strong. It just blows them over and buries them. So there's no way for people to get out the usual political signs that we should be entitled to have a chance to do. So if we could delay this at least into past the snow, there would be a lot of opportunity for that kind of a debate to go on. It's not going to happen in the newspaper. It's not going to happen fairly on Facebook. So we can please consider that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to add, we did pose that question to Phil as to whether June would be a date you could select from. And I wish he was here tonight, but he's not. He had a conflict. But June was too far out. My understanding was 90 days was like you'd be in sometime in April. But that being said, should you not take action, you still have 45 days to schedule. So Phil can be available for the next meeting should the motion fail. Who can clarify what your absolute limit is as to when it has to be held. But that was the first question we asked, and we were told that June was not an option.
I'm not seeing any other public comment. Is there any comments from the board on this?
I have some comments. I guess first of all, I'd like to say that I appreciate all your comments, and my thought process was if we couldn't wait until June, which that's my understanding, that we should get it over and do it as soon as possible. But hearing the issues that have been raised with people's right to vote, people being on vacation, a little inclined to wait a little bit and see what the town attorney has to see, like Glenn just brought up, that we could have another discussion on this at the next meeting. I'm not in such a rush that I can't wait to hear. I know that we did ask him about the June date, and I don't think that is possible that we can wait that long. I would have preferred to wait that long and not have the expense of an election and the hassle for the town clerks and wardens to do another election. But if we have to do it, I want to do it so that the issues that have been raised by the public tonight get addressed. I think that the mail is an issue. I think advertising and putting signs out in the snow is an issue. And I don't want to rush this. And I think that as a board, we can run with 4 people until then. That's my 2 cents. I brought the motion up so that we could have a discussion. We've had a discussion, and I don't know if anybody else on the board has any comments, but those are mine.
Oh, he's right.
Yeah, I have some too. I think the only reverse to that I would have is the budget season. Obviously, this will be after that, so it'd be nice to have someone up here during that process. But legal counsel would be nice to bounce things back and forth off of for legality of it. But I'm not. I would like to save money, obviously, and go to June as well. But I think that's just too far from now, and I don't think we have anything between now and then. So those are really my only two thoughts on this. I do think the mail is not great at all right now.
Okay, I did have a couple questions, and I'm sure I could look this up, so I apologize, but what is the normal time frame to collect signatures?
It is 40 days.
Thank you. So my concerns are that it limits time for voters to learn about their candidates, it limits the time to gather signatures. I do understand that using the school outside of school hours is a double-edged sword. Yes, we get the use of the gym. They don't have to send kids home for the day. But at the same time, that is prime vacation time when a lot of families are out. So at least we would need to be able to give them enough time for absentee voting. So I'm a little bit more of a proponent on meeting in the middle and maybe aiming for April vacation, because that allows more time.
That's too far out.
April vacation.
And I'm on vacation that week.
Okay, so I mean, I think based on where the direction that the board is going with this, that maybe it sounds to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that we're leaning a little bit more towards getting further clarification if we can wait.
So, you're right. What I would like to do, I made the motion. I would like to postpone my motion and table it until the next meeting. That leaves it on the table. We can talk about it at the next meeting, and then we can get legal opinion at that time and give Mel a chance to give us some options that were asked for.
Yeah, I like that.
You'd need a second on that.
That sounds good.
Yes, I do need a second.
Second.
So I have a second from Sam. Do you have any questions, Derek, on this?
No, I just two things. I guess if we leave it open and we come up with if we can get more information, and between now and the next meeting, that would change us to figuring out a better time frame. If there's a way to have it, but if we leave it open-ended and we're saying we're going to talk about it on the next meeting, then it kind of handcuffs us, I believe, to waiting to the next meeting. So I'm not sure. If
Are you trying to ask that we have a special meeting?
I'm just saying I don't want to handcuff us to not be able to have that if that's an option. If we leave it open till then, we're kind of telling ourselves that we have to wait now a month to talk of, like, if we get between now and then.
Right, we're also not setting a date.
Well, I think his
like
motion was to
allowing.
set a date for the vote. Did
I was
hear
just
that wrong?
postponing my motion, and which opened it up for discussion.
Right.
So there's no vote.
Oh, you're postponing the whole motion. Never mind. Okay.
Postponing the whole motion until the next meeting.
I'll just bring it up now. So we have an executive session later to discuss an application for poverty abatement. There's a 30-day timeline in which you have to take action on that application. So part of that discussion we'll have later is you may need to hold a special meeting because we won't meet on our regular meeting until that time runs out.
Right.
So if you want to target a special meeting, we may have to have one anyway.
So the way I postponed this motion was till the next meeting.
Okay.
I didn't give it a date. So if we have a special meeting for the poverty abatement, that would be the next meeting.
Correct.
If that doesn't happen, then we'll have it at the next regularly scheduled meeting, which is March 10th.
February 10th.
February 10th, I'm sorry.
And does that keep us within the 30-day window of setting a date?
So
Or are we
from
just
the date of
barely-
certification,
Which
is
is
when
today.
you
Which
need to
is
schedule.
today. I'm in favor of this, and that gives staff time to propose new dates. Correct?
Right. And then just, again, I'll get Phil to give some clarification, but similar to the last time this kind of came up when we were here in December, should no action occur, within that 30 days, the clerk will just have to pick a date. So, because they must call the election within that time frame. So if there is no
So we
action from the board,
must within 30
we will pick a date. Correct. But they'll meet 30 days from now, which means we won't meet again for however long until you schedule another meeting. So,
Yeah, I'm just very personally a little uncomfortable with not giving these candidates the same fair shake that everybody else gets when they go through this process. And I think it would be a little different if they were just serving until the June election, but where they are serving the remainder of the term.
Yeah.
I believe that it's imperative that we give every candidate who wants to do this the time that everybody gets and a fair shake at it.
I agree.
And I think that that's an important thing that we try to endeavor to do while staying within our ordinance.
I agree with that.
So it sounds like we are in agreement. We
want
need to
to
vote
vote.
on your postponement of your motion. All those in favor of the postponement of the
second that?
motion until the next meeting.
Sam did.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to the, now, approval of liquor license renewal application from A La Mexicana. Go ahead. Hi.
Hello, guys. Jose Chavez again.
Welcome again.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you want to speak, or do you?
Oh, no, I just
anything?
I'm here for the license.
Okay.
That's you do it.
All right. Do we have any staff comment or select board comment on this?
We have Wayne.
So to the select board through the chair.
Go ahead, Wayne.
So we've been working with Jose to get him taken care of. We have an inspection scheduled for next Monday. And he's been working on gathering his forms and stuff, his inspection forms, and getting those to us. So.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, you would probably want us to approve pending inspection from next Monday?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Any comment from the board?
No.
No? Okay, so I would be looking for a motion for the approval of the liquor license for A La Mexicana pending an inspection and resolution of any items found through that inspection.
So moved.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And all those in favor? All right, that motion passes.
All right,
Thank you for
thank you.
doing business in Raymond.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. All right, next is the appointment of Michael Richmond to the planning board. Michael, are you here today?
He's on
On
Zoom.
Zoom? I see your hand is raised. You can go ahead and speak if you'd like.
He's still muted.
Good evening, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, I appreciate this. Just really interested in rejoining the board.
I'm sorry, Mike, are you finished? We're having trouble hearing you.
Apologize. I'm just interested in rejoining the board.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks.
Any public comment or comment from the board on this?
I think Mike's been on the board before. I'd be welcoming him back to the planning board, so I would make a motion that we approve his appointment to the planning board.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, from Sam. All those in favor?
I got a
Oh,
question.
sorry.
I didn't see this one. Did they interview or have any recommendations on the last meeting, or when was that? It says the planning board recommended the appointment of Michael to fulfill the remainder of an unexpired term ending in 2028. I was just wondering if they, was that done before?
My guess is we filled in boilerplate language when it was asked to be put on the agenda by the planning board chair. So
Okay.
I don't know. I don't attend the planning board meetings unless asked.
That's all the only question I had.
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
Do you feel okay?
With
a
the
vote?
answer? Yeah.
With an answer and a vote?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so all those in favor? All right, motion carries. All right, next on the agenda is the Budget Finance Committee vacancies. Did you want to speak to this? No?
So there were 3 candidates.
Yeah, I can give an overview.
Yeah, if you want to do that.
So there were 2 vacancies as a result of resignations back, I believe, around October. So the ordinance gives the Select Board the authority to fill those vacancies by appointment until the annual town meeting, or to allow those vacancies to be filled at the election. The Finance Committee met on December 17th and interviewed 3 residents, Mark Meister, Diana Froyland, sorry if I mispronounced that, and Fred Miller. Following that discussion, the committee recommended the appointment of Fred Miller and Diana to fill those 2 current vacancies. That recommendation was conveyed to you all via email. So the committee's recommendation is advisory in nature, so you have the final say, so to speak. So you can choose to appoint those members to serve until June 9th. And again, I just laid out some options. You can accept the recommendation, you could appoint another candidate from the pool that wasn't recommended, or you can defer the action until the election. And then there's some suggested motion in there if you choose to accept the recommendation.
All right, is there any public comment on this?
David Mertz, 2 Canal Road, Raymond. If it's the same Fred Miller that I'm thinking of, he's a valued member of the ZBA. So if Fred gets elected to fill the term or gets appointed to fill the term, can he still remain on ZBA, or is he going to have to?
Yeah, there shouldn't be an issue. It's an advisory. Well, because it's an advisory board, and I mean, I don't see an issue. I guess I know Fred had mentioned running for Select Board in the future. I think that would change the circumstances. But again, I'm not used to having 2 elected boards, so, but in a normal situation, ZBA is a governance board that makes decisions, and the Finance Committee is a advisory board to the Select Board.
Is Fred on Zoom?
I don't see him.
Regardless, if you choose to appoint him, I think you're getting a valuable person, so. And also with Diana.
So valuable that you don't want to lose him?
No, I don't interfere with what Fred wants.
Any other questions or concerns from the board?
I can make a motion if you'd like.
Okay,
I move that we appoint Fred Miller and Diana Froisland to the Budget Finance Committee to fill the current vacancies with terms to run until June 9th, 2026 annual town meeting.
and
Second.
second from Sam. All those in favor?
Are we doing both at the same time, or are we doing one each?
I did it both at one time.
Okay.
That was the recommendation of the committee. Good? Good?
Yep.
Are you okay? Do you have further questions?
Nope,
Just
we're
make
just-
sure you're good.
No, I was just getting the answer, then I got to process and vote all within 30 seconds. So I'm trying to weigh what I'm thinking and what's going on. I'm ready.
Okay, all those in favor? All right, that motion carries. Okay, moving on to the Raymond Community Fund Policy discussion, and I would ask that you kick this off.
Sure, that's fine. So in my travels in the last 2 months, I've sort of been digging around policies and things like that. So this one was sort of on the back burner to come before the board anyway, just because it is a little outdated. So I'll just kind of give an overview of what it is. But there's currently what I could find, a one-page document titled the Raymond Community Assistance Fund. It outlines eligibility criteria and maximum assistance amount. I was unable to locate minutes authorizing the policy or to confirm whether it was just an administrative policy that was implemented by management at some point. So I figured two birds with one stone. We can adopt the policy formally and also make some updates to it as it's a bit dated. So part of the recommendation is the maximum one-time assistance for someone who's not eligible for general assistance is $500. It's generally been used historically to fill an oil tank. That's not generally filling an oil tank. So it's an ask to increase the maximum to $1,000. And again, this fund is funded by donations from residents in the community. The other ask is, as I met with Jim Gailey, County Administrator, I was made aware of some CDBG funding that was available for grants. And we had discussed potentially doing a rec scholarship for families who were low and moderate income. So the other ask is to expand the use of the Raymond Community Fund, similar to kind of maintain the intent and spirit of the policy, but also to meet the community match if the next action is passed for the grant that we'll be requesting. And then there are two options in front of you. One is to, if you adopt the expanded uses of the policy, one would be at my discretion. The other would be you would want it to come before the board because it's something we typically don't do. So depending on what you'd like, if you'd like to give us that discretion or if you want it to come before you, there's two motions there if you want to adopt the policy and the expanded intent of the funds.
Is there any public comment on this item? I'm not seeing any. How about any comment from the board?
I will also add that the records of disbursement and the historical use of it, you've already been exceeding the allowable amount, so also makes sense to bring it up in line with what you've been using it for your general assistance disbursements.
I guess I like option A, and I would make a motion to adopt the revised Raymond Community Assistance Fund policy as presented, increasing the maximum assistance amount to $1,000 and authorizing the town manager to approve eligible uses of the fund, including expanded assistance purposes when funds are available.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and then discussion?
I have a little bit. So this would leave the ball in your court to a certain point because you can't, I mean, only up to 1,000 for one spot anyway. You can't just give out 20 grand to one person, one spot.
Right.
But also it stops you at what we have in that fund, correct?
Correct, yep.
Just want to make sure that that's clear.
Any other comments?
My experience with this with past managers, it was all at the town manager's discretion. And if he went over or under, I don't know what all the circumstances were, but I think this kind of cleans it up, gives you authority to 1,000, and we put the ball in your court unless funds run out or somebody needs more than $1,000.
Yeah, and the eligibility criteria is outlined in the policy. So
I saw that.
And that hasn't changed. That remains the same.
So should we speak to that so people know what that is?
Yeah, if you'd like. I just didn't know how much of it you want. So basically, historically, if you were denied general assistance, you could use this fund as long as you were a Raymond resident for at least 1 year, had limited or no assets, been disqualified from GA, and again, we cleaned up the language because the language that was being used was in terms of general assistance was somebody who had, like, you had worded it in a way that it was somebody who had committed fraud, not necessarily someone who wasn't eligible. So we changed that so because the county now administers the program, and they called that to our attention. That demonstrates an immediate need that could not have reasonably been avoided, and have all adult household members 18 and over either employed or receiving disability. And if an applicant is more than 1 month in arrears on rent, the town may require the applicant seek alternative housing as a condition of receiving assistance. But, and again, it's not, may be used for, but not limited to, heating and fuel, emergency housing, food or essential household needs, and then the expanded financial support, including matching funds for program services or community assets that directly benefit low-income residents when consistent with the intent of the policy.
So I really like this for a couple reasons. I think updating it to reflect current needs from going from 500 to 1,000 is very important, because we actually want to provide assistance to people in a meaningful way. This also gives us an avenue for potential use of CDBG funding, maximizing donation use. And then it's also a creative way to utilize funds in a different way. That's a big need in this community. So I am in favor of option A as well. If there's no further discussion, I'm okay with taking a vote, as we've had a motion and a second. All right, all those in favor? Okay, that passes. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Okay, next is authorize the town manager to apply for a CDBG grant for recreation scholarships.
Okay, so now that this policy's been amended, we'll use that as our matching contribution. So skip the overview pending approval. So we're going to apply for, sorry, not the exact number as of today, but I put 25, $23,960 to support recreation program scholarships for low-income families. The grant would fund scholarships to reduce financial barriers in town recreation programs for income-qualified residents. CDBG program requires 20% local match. So again, at the time I published this, the application wasn't ready, but this should cover 12 or more families for aftercare, childcare programs, and summer camps. So pending approval of this will be our board support portion of the grant application, and we'll go hand it off to the county tomorrow before the deadline.
When's the deadline?
What's that?
When's the deadline?
Tomorrow.
Oh.
Is there any public comment on this agenda item? I am not seeing any. I would ask the board for a motion to authorize the town manager to submit a CDBG grant application in the amount of $23,900 for recreation program scholarships contingent upon approval, which we already did, and availability of the required local match. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And is there a second? Sam with a second. And any discussion? I am not seeing any, so all those in favor? And that motion carries. All right, moving right along, Glenn, revisions to the vacation policy.
Yep. So just some background. Over the last year, select board members amended the town's vacation policy, which I believe the intent was to cap terminal leave payouts so you don't carry that earned leave liability for employees who had accrued significant unused vacation time. After review of the policy with staff, there were some ambiguities and operational risks. So there are some amendments to that policy. So I'll kind of skip over some of this, but because it's in your packet. So you made some terminal leave payouts in July. I believe there's also a warrant article appropriating a portion of undesignated fund balance for this exact purpose in the event you have, a large terminal leave payout liability. I believe it was Article 24 of your town meeting warrant. So because the there was a couple inconsistencies. One, the policy was structured around calendar year rather than fiscal year. So even though you did this payouts in July, the way the policy read, earned leave payouts were also due at the end of December. So I approved those because it was consistent with policy. That totaled $23,158.82. So I believe there are two motions. One was to authorize a budget transfer. So move to authorize the use of funds appropriated from undesignated surplus in the amount of $23,158.82 for employees' benefits to cover unanticipated FY25 vacation and terminal leave payouts in accordance with the previous policy. And then also the motion after would be to amend the changes, and just to highlight those. The policy change is to clearly distinguish between earned leave and unearned leave. So you were front-loading vacation historically. So in theory, if I started my job on the 1st of January and I was front-loaded 2 weeks vacation, and I said, by the way, I'm quitting in 14 days and I'm taking 2 weeks vacation, there was some ambiguity there on whether or not that time was earned or unearned. This clarifies that it is unearned time, and if that happens, they'll be deducted from their last pay, or hopefully just not approved in the first place if they request the time off. But again, it removes that unearned leave liability. Also, we've moved away from the practice of front-loading to an accrual-based policy that will work with your payroll system. So again, because the leave payouts occurred at the end of December and folks made those decisions based on the fact that they thought they were getting their stuff front-loaded, there's sort of a sunset period where they're still going to be front-loaded as of January, but it's unearned leave now, which is clearly spelled out. And then as of next year, everything will be caught up on the accrual basis. So all leave will be earned, and you won't have that payroll liability. And the caps that you put in place remain, so you can't carry more than however many hours the policy dictates. But again, it was just some cleanup with that policy, and again, that's for non-union employees.
Thank you, Glenn. Is there any public comment on this item? I'm not seeing any. Questions from the board?
I think because I'm an employee, I'm going to recuse myself from the conversation.
Okay. Derek or Sam, do you have any questions regarding this?
No.
And I just would like to thank you for forwarding the language in an email earlier, and it may be
Yes.
in the package.
Yeah, sorry I
packet now,
omitted that
that's okay.
initially.
So I want to make it clear that I did review that and approved of the revised language. So I would be looking for a motion to approve the revised Town of Raymond vacation policy effective January 14th, 2026 as presented.
So moved.
Okay, and here would be my second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? And I just would like to note that Chris did recuse himself.
There was the second motion too for the budget transfer.
Oh, I apologize. Okay, so I would also be looking for a motion to authorize the use of funds appropriated from undesignated surplus in the amount of $23,158.82 for employee benefits to cover unanticipated fiscal year 25 vacation and terminal leave payouts incurred in accordance with the previously adopted vacation policy.
I make a correction too. It should actually be fiscal year 26. That's my fault.
Okay. So I would be looking for a motion with, as I just stated, with FY26 as a correction. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Okay, Derek, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All right.
You're it.
All those in favor? And I'd also just need to note again that Chris recused himself from this vote as well. Okay. Moving right along to the budget goals and schedule. And in our meeting materials, there's a draft schedule of the budget development. I believe that we did have a peek at this at our last meeting. And curious if there's any public comment regarding this agenda item.
I'll just add that it was discussed at the last Budget Finance Committee meeting, and I believe there was only one conflict, but the board member who would have been absent for, I believe it was the March 3rd meeting, would still have a quorum, but again, there's plenty of members from Budget Finance here as well, if they want to speak on that item. And I believe there was some initial feedback from some members at the 9th meeting about the start times, and that was still up in the air. So just looking for, to adopt the schedule so I can start planning with department heads and scheduling the meetings.
Okay, so I'll once again ask if there's any public comment regarding the proposed schedule. And any questions from the board?
Glenn, do we need to take action now, or?
No, but it would be helpful to have a confirmed schedule, just because we'll be starting up February 24th to kick off.
So how do we proceed? This is a draft. Approve it as proposed?
Yeah, and I'll just make corrections to the descriptions, but I'm just looking for the times and dates to get confirmed, not necessarily who's, because I'll work with department heads once we confirm, and then if they have vacations and stuff lined up, I'll schedule department heads based on their availability.
This somewhat aligns with last year's
I used last year
schedule.
as a template, yeah.
So I'm in favor of it, and I will make a motion that we accept the schedule for FY 2027 budget development, starting July 1st, 26 through June 30, 2027.
Second.
Any discussion? I would just like to make note that I would like, and I know this is just the proposed schedule and we'll add to it, but I would like to make sure that we're adding plenty of public hearings to discuss the warrant articles.
Okay, I think that'll be
a
part
line
of,
here.
Yeah, and I think that'll be part of some of the discussion later, because depending on whether you decide for secret ballot or open meeting, secret ballot would mean we need to have the warrant articles drafted sooner and proofed sooner. So that will all sort of be dictated. But an open town meeting obviously would be an open meeting anyway. So, but yeah, once that's decided, we can kind of work that sort of stuff in. Because I believe you did that last year. You had an additional public hearing.
And then we can adopt this proposed schedule, and you will fill in a time, like for Tuesday, March 10th, once you've.
Yeah, and again, we can always revise this, but I think the more important part are the workshop times and dates, so that way I can coordinate with department heads who may or may not be around, or tell them not to schedule time off because they'll be coming in that day. So.
Okay. All right, if there's no further discussion, I'm okay taking a vote on this. Okay, all those in favor? Okay. All right, next is subcommittee discussion. Glenn, I'll let you kick this off again.
Sure. So there's been a lot of discussion about a lot of things that are going on. We have the middle school in the pipeline. There's been some discussion surrounding TIF, open space, public works buildings, and sort of just had some informal discussions with the board, which is to spin up that many subcommittees. It's obviously a lot of volunteers. So I just kind of wanted to prime a discussion with the board and get some feedback and see if they might want to consider either consolidating some of that work into a subcommittee with a broader charge to maybe work on multiple things, or implement members of other committees that already exist and task them with some steering work on some of these items. But basically, you have a lot of these things sort of out there, and if we were to spin up a subcommittee for every project, 5 people on each subcommittee, it's 25 volunteers, and just kind of wanted to get some feedback. given the breadth of the work and the anticipated committee work that's kind of coming down the pipe. No actions being requested. It's just, again, a discussion intended to inform the direction of how you want to structure these committees.
Is there any public comment on this item?
Peter Levitt, 2 Levitt Road. Okay, so I'll try and be brief. I try. Timeline of action for the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee. May 13th, the Select Board did not place the Comprehensive Plan on the June town warrant. That's just a fact, and I'm not going to belabor how that happened. But normally, it would be on the warrant, and it wasn't. June 2nd, 2025, Select Board adopted the plan, but did not set a date for the public hearing or the vote. June 17th, 2025, Select Board sets the date for public hearing and special town meeting vote. That was a new board. August 12, 2025, the comprehensive plan is adopted by the voters of the town. October 14th, 2025, the Select Board approves the structure of the Implementation Committee. 5 months after the voters of the Raymond adopted the 2025 Comprehensive Plan, there has been no further action on creating the Plan Implementation Committee. The Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee is part of the adopted Comprehensive Plan. If I just could quickly just read the description, Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee. After the adoption of the plan, Raymond will, and I stress that will because I believe, although I'm not a lawyer, legally will means it's used for the future or the intent of the language. Will establish a Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee. The committee role will be to coordinate implementation of this plan with the Select Board and the Planning Board. The committee will also have a role in working with town staff, other boards and committees, and regional partners. Sounds like a steering committee to me. The interim town manager's executive summary says the town of Raymond currently utilizes several subcommittees to advance discrete policy and project objectives, including the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee, Public Works Building Committee, and Middle School Implementation Committee. Raymond does not currently utilize the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee, as this committee has yet to be formed. Reference to the Middle School Implementation Committee, I can only assume means the Jordan Small Middle School Building Committee, which was also discussed at the October 14th meeting, and the composition voted on unanimously by the board. The Jordan Small Middle School Visioning Committee has completed their work and submitted their findings to the Select Board. The Building Committee does not yet exist. The Public Works Building Committee does exist. So just as a correction, just to refresh all our memories, what committees are and aren't in the town. The composition of the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee, as adopted by the Select Board unanimously on October 14th, was decided it would comprise 13 members with 5 members from existing boards and committees. Sounds like a steering committee. Consider whether it is more appropriate to consolidate related functions into fewer committees or alternately to assign specific project work to steering committees drawn from existing committee memberships. That's part of the interim town manager's executive summary. If the board chooses to change the comprehensive plan by altering the implementation committee, there are several options the town can take. I always like to give options. So number one would be submit the changes to the state, which will trigger another state review and further delay implementation of any of the actions identified in the comprehensive plan. Or B, going forward with changes, the changes of the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee, and adopt it without a state approval. Just simply means we would have a comprehensive plan that wouldn't be approved by the state. Could do that. Or third, submit a warrant article to repeal the adopted comprehensive plan and just start all over again. So we can do all of those things if we start messing with this plan as it exists now. And I'd leave that up to the board's discretion on how you'd like to proceed. There are 7 adopted priority actions within the time frame of the first year for implementation. 7 priorities of actions that the people of this town approved. And we're 5 months into it of the year, and we are yet to have a committee. There are also 20 adopted short-term actions with a time frame of 1 to 2 years. And once again, haven't even started on those because we don't have a committee. So I guess I would just remind the Select Board that you've already covered a lot of this ground. You voted unanimously to put together the composition of the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee, and I guess also the middle school. So I guess what you have an option to do is to repeal those or reverse those decisions and start adding other compositions to the committees. I would say at that October 14th, which I reviewed that meeting, and I would encourage everyone to review that meeting, what I heard from selectmen as well as members of the public was that there were a number of individuals that expressed interest in serving on committees in the town. So I guess we could suggest that given the breadth of current and anticipated committee work, there may be practical challenges in recruiting and sustaining sufficient volunteer participation across standalone bodies. But I would suggest that from what I heard on that meeting, a number of the selectmen didn't believe that would be the case, and a number of the public that were in attendance at that meeting also expressed interest. And I've also had individuals just in the community express interest to me to serve on one or more committees. So I don't know that that's a valid concern, especially since we haven't posted or even seen who wants to serve on a committee in the town. I know that steering committees basically expedite things because they're made up mostly of leadership. One of the things I heard at the October 14 meeting from a member of the public was they wanted to see more public involvement in committee work rather than leadership. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Questions for the board? I'm open to a lot of things, but particularly whatever sort of gets these subcommittees up and running. I think, as we've just heard, a very comprehensive timeline was just laid out, and it has taken, even though government doesn't typically move very fast, it has taken what seems to be an unusually long time to sort of get moving on this comprehensive plan and implementing it. But I'm also in favor of consolidating when you can.
And again, the intent surrounding the discussion, there are also, again, you would know better the institutional history than I would. There are opportunities right now, like Loon Echo Land Trust is willing to fund completely an open space master plan if you want to do one. You had an open space committee. I don't believe it's active currently. I don't know if there's current membership. But again, if that's something you wanted to explore, is one of these existing committees or members from those existing committees a good option to task one of these items to. The other is the discussion surrounding a TIF. Typically, you would involve your Economic Development Committee at some point, which my understanding existed at one time but may not exist currently in its current form. Do you, when you get to that later TIF discussion, create another Economic Development Committee or task some of these existing committees with that work or members from those existing committees? Intent was not to repeal or modify the structure of an existing committee, just there are more steps to a TIF discussion than just doing it. And typically, if you're engaging with your economic development group and it doesn't exist, you know, that's another committee down the road that may get created. Or same thing with open space. If the comprehensive plan implementation committee, and again, I have not fully read the plan as I'm focused on budget currently. If they task the open space committee, you have to activate that committee. Like, yeah, is there, to think about work that can be tasked down the road to other groups? I don't know, that's why I'm asking.
And it's my understanding that we can change the composition of a committee at
The statute allows the select board to create subcommittees to, you know, put project work and all that stuff. But
So in theory, we could get, you know, the comprehensive plan implementation committee and the JSMS building committee going and make changes as we see fit later on down the road.
absolutely. I mean, comp plan stuff, I'm not going to speak with any sort of authority on that, but the other advisory committees, at your discretion, you can dissolve and create at any time.
Comment, Caleb? So you and I were both on the comprehensive plan committee at one time. You stayed throughout. I moved on. But in that comprehensive plan, we do discuss TIFs, and there's a whole chapter on TIFs. So maybe the thing is get this comprehensive implementation committee going and filled, and then maybe a subcommittee out of that committee could look at the TIFs. That's just an idea. The Public Works Building Committee is already established, I think. And then, so the only other thing we would have to really do immediately would be the Middle School Implementation Committee, am I right?
Right, so now you have two large capital facility projects kind of working in tandem. Why have two when you can have a facilities committee, perhaps?
But I think it's imperative, I agree with Peter, it's been 5 months, we need to get things going. And this has nothing to do with you, Glenn, you're the interim, the can got kicked. So what I'm saying is, I think it's imperative we get that going and see where that committee leads to, and then get this Public Works Committee going on their tasks. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think you got it.
The Public Works committee is already in place, and we have talked about the comp plan committee and the composition of it. So, I mean, that one's pretty easy to get started and get going. I think it's the JSMS one. If that starts, if we fill the comp plan one and all of a sudden there's nobody left to do the other one, maybe that's when we try to figure that out.
Well, what I'm hearing is an easy combination would be, a facilities committee. So we would dissolve the Public Works Building Committee and create a facilities building.
Oh, okay.
Committee,
Yeah.
right? And then so we would be working on those two large infrastructure projects in one committee.
Yep, Public Works and Jordan Small.
Mm-hmm.
That does make sense to me.
So that's something I think we can chew on, but I do think it is important for us that the comprehensive implementation committee get going.
Okay, so I'll review the structure that was adopted and we can advertise and solicit applications.
Okay. Peter?
Sure. I'd just like to say I'd encourage everyone who's in leadership and on a committee, especially those that are involved with legal discussions regarding land use. So that would be the planning board, that would be town government, that would be the zoning board of appeals. I would encourage you, if you have not yet read the comprehensive plan, I would advise you to do so. The plan, it contains a recommendation that the Economic Development Committee be involved. It recommends that the Jordan Small School repurposing is discussed and would be part of the implementation committee. And so I think you would find that really the key in that committee to me, and what impressed me, is that it's called a comprehensive plan. And therefore, a lot of the discussions, as was just had here, involving committees, are already incorporated into the comprehensive plan. And given the fact that the board spent a significant amount of time figuring out what the composition of that board would be, I believe it's pretty well covered as far as both public involvement as well as leadership and committee involvement. So if you're looking to consolidate a lot of these committees, I would say, I would agree with you. What needs to happen is that we need an implementation committee for the comprehensive plan. And from that, a lot of this stuff will be addressed. Thanks.
Is there any further discussion on this agenda item?
No. Nope.
Okay. Moving on to the annual town meeting discussion. I will ask if there's any public comment regarding this to start.
Hi there, Char Jewel, 17 Harley Lane. I've lived in this town my whole life. My family's been here for well over 100 years. So I started coming to town meeting when I was a little kid, got dragged there by my parents and my grandparents. And back in that day, the gym at Jordan Small was chock-a-block full of people. It was standing room only, and people were boisterous at times and had great discussion, and things got bounced around and sorted out and voted on, and it was a great day. We even stayed there long enough to have lunch. So that was what town meeting meant to me growing up, and frankly, I'd love to see that again now. Some years ago, town meeting devolved into, a core group of people showing up, 20, 30 people or so, versus hundreds. And so then we had a town of 4,000 to 5,000 people that was getting the decisions being made by 20 or 30 people. And that's not how a democracy should happen. And unfortunately, people these days are so busy and so stretched and have other competing priorities, just as, past attendance at SelectBoard meetings and school board meetings. Unless there's something to fire people up, they don't take the time to come. And so I think that town meeting has had a similar fate. And while I would love to see in-person town meeting, a day of voting and discussion, I don't want to go back to a situation where only 20 or 30 people are making decisions for the entire town. It's even with the all-day voting, it's sad to see that only a few hundred people come to vote, right? It's terrible. People sit on their couch and get distracted and do other things and then complain about the decisions that are made that they didn't actively partake in. But it's the story of our lives today, I guess. So while I'd love to see the in-person voting and in the public town meeting come back and happen again, I don't think it's feasible or the right thing to do for our town. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Brown of Tenny Hill Road, and people who use the it's called the Raymond Community Board Facebook page over the last month have seen me write about had a little discussion about the town meetings. My wife and I have been here for over 26 years, and we as was said, have attended the town meetings most of the years that we've been here until COVID, when they stopped. And yes, we noticed that they petered down a little bit, but that's the place you can have discussions. And the way it works is you actually talk back and forth. You hear from people who have been on committees, who have proposed the ordinances, who have proposed the budgets that we're voting on. And that's the only time you get that information. As I was saying earlier, we don't have a great information sharing system in this town. We could get articles put into a newspaper maybe to talk about these things or something if there were time and if people would read it. But the people who come to these meetings tend to be the most informed, and not only are they the most informed before they get there, but they become even more informed. And hopefully they come with their ears open and they listen and they can have some actual debate. You debate through the moderator. You don't debate with each other and fighting, but it's a great way to learn. And I've looked at state law, and I've looked at the Maine Municipal Association town meeting documents, including one that's on our town website, and it's all about the in-person town meeting. It's not about this idea of having not pointing at anybody here, I'm pointing at past things that have been said in the paper by former town officials, that a secret ballot is an acceptable replacement for that. I don't see that in the law. I don't see that in the Maine Municipal Association description of what a town meeting is. And so anyway, I've said enough, but I really want to see it come back.
Grace Levitt, Levitt Road. I wasn't going to speak on this, although I saw it on the agenda, but I feel like I'm supposed to because I was so adamant about an in-person town meeting last year and bringing that back. I totally understand. You get greater representation of the voters with the secret ballot. My strong objection to it is the chance to change amounts on the warrant. For example, there was something the year before that ended up being voted down, which if it had been in an in-person town meeting, I do wonder if that would have passed. It was the Public Works building at a lesser amount, because the objection I was hearing from people was that it was just too much money. And so here we are without a Public Works building still. So again, if there were some process where people were encouraged to be able to give input. I know there's a number of budget hearings coming up, budget meetings coming up. I'm not sure if that's a place where people can get input. If it is, I'll be there to talk about anything that we can do on traffic mitigation issues and traffic safety, because that's the other hot topic for me. I really want to see some movement forward in our town on that. It just seems to continue to be bad to not have that addressed better. But in any case, I understand getting better representation of all the voters. I just want them to be informed, and I want them to have a way to give input on what's being voted on prior to it being on the warrant, and then that's the way it is. You vote yes or no and don't have a chance to modify something. So I know that there was one town, at least recently, where they had both. They had an in-person town meeting for certain items on the warrant, and the other items were then voted on with a secret ballot. I don't know how they went about doing that or deciding which was which. Again, just any chance for the public to be sure they've got input and a chance for discussion would, I think, be the right way to go as well. So we'll see how it goes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Jennifer Danzig, 38 Pulpit Rock Road. I too, like many, remember bringing my little ones to the all-day town meeting, and it was quite an affair, and we had lunch, and the kids played, and we had good conversation, and we discussed, and we learned a lot, and we had good community. We used to be a caucus state where we got to do that too for our regular elections, and since moved to primary, since moved to secret ballots, which can, give better participation in terms of allowing people to come throughout the day. I'm not sure that the secret ballot gives people better, we're not getting as much as the informed voters. And I will say that I guess the last few years' elections, the town warrant is very long. There's a lot of legalese in it, and people show up and they don't know what it means. And they don't know that they can ask for clarification, because I think I've seen, because I work the polls too. So I've seen where people show up and they don't know something. Specifically, there was something related to solar that I was involved with, but there was a different solar thing on the ballot. And they're like, well, I thought I just voted on that. And I'm like, no, that was different. This is this. So people are not entirely sure what they're voting on when they show up. So in that regard, is it better that we have greater participation? That being said, I think better education would, regardless of which way we go, if you do town meeting and it's low population, those people are really well educated because they're there. If you do secret ballot and you have more people, finding a way to better educate them in terms of letting them know that if they have a question on the ballot, they can go to Sukar and they can ask for the whole warrant and they can read that. People don't know that. Once you get your ballot and you go into your secret ballot box, you think that you can't leave. But you can actually go to Sue and you can say, hey, can I see the warrant on this? That's not something that most people know. I only know because Mel told me. But the other thing would be, and Dennis had mentioned this when he was on the select board, I guess a year ago. It's just, and it was too late for that one, and we were going to try and enact it, but having plain language on the warrant. So we have the whole legalese. We have the, select board recommends, budget finance recommends, select board doesn't recommend, but maybe like in real English, a little blurb summarizing what that legalese all means, because to the layperson, if they're not following all the select board meetings, if they're not following all the planning board meetings, if they're not on all the ordinance workshops, they may not know exactly what they're voting for. They may be intimidated by it. They may not know. But if we had, and I don't know if it's legal, so you'll have to pose that to, the powers that be. But to the extent that you could have your legalese on your warrant for a secret ballot, but then also have a way to sort of explain what all that is saying. Because when we get the warrant, it's this thick. And not a lot of people are reading all that. I'm a nerd, so I do. And I have a master's in tax law, so I know legalese, and even I don't know sometimes what they're talking about. And that's, I know enough to be dangerous. So any way that we can help our community members participate more as informed voters and more as people who, it creates a better community, right? Because now they know what they're voting for. They don't feel duped. They don't feel, and they're not like, hey, wait a minute. Wait, I didn't understand that and I voted on that. So I don't know if that's possible, but if you go the secret ballot route to get more participation, let's do some more voter education to the extent that we can so people know exactly what they're voting on, because that was the beauty of town meeting. If you went in not knowing, you came out and you knew. Thank you.
Thank you.
This Morris, 340 Cape Road. I attended all the annual town meetings. I don't ever remember just 20 people there. I know my memory's getting bad as I age, but I will tell you this. I think times are changing. The younger generations, they communicate through their phone. The secret ballot definitely has its place. All our surrounding towns that shut down annual town meetings during COVID all went back to them, and we didn't. So I did a lot of reading on the law, and the town manager type of government actually calls for an annual town meeting. And we had members say that same thing. Voting secret ballot is the same as a public town meeting. I disagree with that, and I think this is going to continue every year when we talk about this until we simply have a open public meeting with a vote on going to secret ballot. Because then once you have the public meeting decide to go to the secret ballot, it becomes a done deal. From what I've talked to, I called up Augusta. All it would take is the people who really like secret ballot to actually show up like we all used to do when I first got here. And I know when I did the public safety building, the bleachers were filled. There were a lot of questions. It was an all-day affair. And it was overwhelming when they were done on all the warrants. In fact, one warrant, I remember we had to line people up on one side and one on the other so we could count them. It was kind of fun. I know people didn't like it, but there was babysitting service, there was lunches. I'm not saying we should go back to that. I brought up at one of our meetings that you could probably work it out where it's a hybrid, where you could have a public meeting, do it early, and be able to leave the public meeting, do your secret ballot, drop it off, and then people could do the ballots after that, so it'd be public. I don't know how you'd work it out, but I'm sure that the lawyers we have and use a lot, and the creative people that are in this town, we could figure a way to do that. And I think once it was settled, we just go with what it was, whether it was a hybrid, whether it was secret ballot. But I think if enough people showed up, it would end up secret ballot because it is more people's participation. You would definitely have to have a public meeting, though, because blanks have showed up a lot. When I ran in '24, I bet there was 30 or 40 people that came out and came over and complained. And Joe and I were standing there together, and they'd say, I didn't know what I was voting for, so I didn't vote. And we looked at it. I looked at it when I got elected, and there was a ton of blanks because people didn't understand the ordinance, which is why when I got elected, I said, let's put some common sense into this and allow people to understand what the ramification of all that language was. Just a simple thing. Same thing I said about agendas. Put right on there what it's about. It doesn't take much work. We're not talking about staff working overtime to do something like that. We're just talking about trying to make it common sense language for the people to understand. And I do believe that one public meeting with a warrant that you would vote on, and everyone who votes, and it ranges on, what, a governor's race is 2,700? Our municipal is 800 to 1,000 with secret ballot. I don't think you'll see 1,000 people at a public meeting. I don't think you'll see 800 ever again at a public meeting. So why not have that one time where everyone shows up, we vote through the secret ballot or the hybrid, and then let's get on with being a community. Because I think the hybrid is the way to go myself, whatever way we do it, so everyone gets to hear and get an understanding and vote right afterwards. Thank you.
D. Gillies, Plummer Drive. Just a question. I heard a lot of concern about absentee ballots for the first election and everything. Is that just not a thing with the town meeting? If people cannot vote absentee if they're not at the town meeting. Right. So we had a lot of concern with the first votes that we just did, and I heard a lot of people speak, but now for the town stuff that we're not worried about it, I think it's kind of, doesn't make sense to me. I think that a hybrid, not necessarily a hybrid, but a town meeting where people could be informed, people could talk about it, learn more, and then be able to vote, afterwards with absentee involvement, whether we broadcast it or have it be done that way. Yeah. Just my 2 cents.
We ought to consider that.
We do it. That's what we currently do.
Sean McKillop, 84 Main Street. I just want to clarify one word. Sue Look said we will get sued if we use the word hybrid. She was more joking, but I don't think the term hybrid was correct. So just to say that, I've seen, my memory just kind of shot too, Dennis. What did we do last year? We did a meeting of sorts where we went through all the agenda items, right? And then we still did secret ballot, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Was kind of senses of the room here. I know not everybody's here, but do we like that? Do we not like that? Yeah. Do we remember how many people were there? 50, maybe? I only bring that up because we are, I think, I never did the in-town meetings. That was before my time, before I moved here. I'm kind of neutral on this, and I said that last year. I'm not going to be able to drive the town forward to say this is the decision we need to make or this is the decision we need to make. But I think the point of my generation not showing up to these things, I think, is valid. And I just want to throw that out there because I want the town to get informed. I also feel that there were things on the ballot that weren't originally on the ballot a couple years ago that went over my head. And even though I'm budget finance, I'm looking at these things, just like Jennifer said, like a lot of this stuff, like it's going over our heads. Like Dennis said, with all the blanks, like that's not good. So I'm not here to give an answer what to do, but I'm just saying, hey, with my generation not showing up, and then certain people feeling like even if they were informed, we don't understand what's going on, just if we could find a way to, I don't know, do the best for the town, that would be my suggestion. Thank you.
Dennis Morse again. Just to clarify, the way they explained it to me when I've talked to people both in Augusta and some surrounding communities, you couldn't vote at a town meeting and then do votes afterwards. The town meeting would be set up so that it would happen before the vote, secret ballot, but you would have the answers and you'd be able to, and combine, get an absentee ballot and drop it in at the end. You wouldn't take a public vote and then have the absentee ballot and not be able to use the ballot. So in other words, you couldn't vote one way like they did in Wyndham. Then people left and they did a vote of reconsideration. And the people who left were really upset. That you can't do. So you couldn't have a public meeting, take a vote, and then have people vote whatever way they want to. You'd have to take that public meeting and just set it up in a timetable where the ballots could be done after that. But it'd be so much easier to be able to leave a meeting, go up to town hall or have a ballot ready to go, vote it and drop it in the ballot box up there all in the same day, and then be done with it. So it'd be informational. And I'm not saying how I figured it all out. I'm just saying that you couldn't do voting in a public meeting and then voting afterwards. It would all be done after the meeting. And so people who weren't there, that saw it on Zoom, could simply pick up a ballot in the next day or two and drop it in, or you know, it'd almost be all absentee, basically. It's just an idea, and I think it would be done anyway, once we got to the public meeting. Thank you.
Excuse me. Cliff Small, 84 Webbs Mills Road. I am a strong proponent of the open public meeting in person. Ideas were exchanged. I've gone to enough of them. Ideas were exchanged. Questions were asked that you'd never think of. You say, oh, I never would have thought of that. That does have an impact. You get a larger turnout with the secret ballot, but it's not anywhere near as well informed. You read the ballot, you read the warrant, and if you can understand the warrant, and I mean anybody here, everything on it, then you're a better man than I am, because there's confusing places in it for everybody. So to make an informed decision works better if people get together, stand there, ask their questions, and everybody gets a chance to voice their opinion. Thank you.
Right, McDermott, 2 McDermott Road. I'm absolutely in favor of the open meeting. And I say that remembering that for 21 years, I was the subject of a lot of questioning. And I probably shouldn't say what else, because I was the principal, superintendent principal here, and I had the answer to all of those people in that room on the school budget. That doesn't happen anymore, folks. I could probably be a superintendent again. The way to get the open town meeting attended is to make it a very special day. What we need is a music man, folks. We got to get people excited about voting. We got to get people excited about getting together with their neighbors, having a discussion about what they want their town to be, what they want their town to do. If you don't have those discussions, nobody gets involved. At an open town meeting, people get involved. We have 2 schools. Jordan Small could be where the meeting was held. The elementary school, that could be where the rec department could entertain children. So that if you have kids and need somewhere for your kids to be during town meeting, that would be the place. We would have a lunch. The meeting would adjourn for lunch. People would get together. If it's a nice day, you can go out and sit on the lawn, talk to your neighbors. 3/4 of an hour later, you come back in and you continue the meeting. Part of the problems we have today is we don't know each other. We really don't. I have 65 or 70 homes up above me on Tenny Hill Road. I can remember when you couldn't get up Tenny Hill Road unless you had a high clearance four-wheel drive vehicles. Now there's 70 houses up there. But you know, I think I only know 2 or 3 people on that road. And I've lived there for almost 60 years. We got to get to know each other. And the only way you get to know each other is to get together and discuss what you want your town to be. You don't do that at the ballot box. And a couple of people have said it, is that people go in and they vote on things they don't understand, or if they don't understand it, they leave it blank. That's not the way to run your town. The way to run your town is to get together, dialogue, and talk it out. Thank you.
Grace Levitt Road. The point about the absentee ballots was really, I mean, yes, absolutely, I agree. We talk about that on one issue and then different on the other issue. Again, the one piece that's missing with the secret ballot, even when you hold the informational meetings that the select board held last year, I think you did 2 actually. I don't know if you did 1 or 2. That had the chance to ask the questions and understand what you'd be voting on. There was no chance for the input for lowering the amount. The ballots were already made up. This is the amount. You either voted up or down. So I don't know what the answer is to trying to provide that other than attending every single budget hearing and maybe making comments there and having things considered there. Unlikely that a lot of people will be attending those. I think a few of us might, but seriously, that's the piece that's missing. As far as the community building and having a chance to get to know one another, I think that there's movement forward with all that the rec department has been doing and trying to have different events, so that helps. But I do hope that we continue on that path and have a greater sense of community again that we did have with in-person town meetings. So I'm kind of speaking on both sides here too, because I can understand the advantages of both ways. You do want good participation. You want informed voters. You also want voters to have a chance to weigh in on things and not just vote yes or no. Again, we don't have that public works building yet, and maybe we would have had that been an in-person town meeting, and we could have just lowered that amount and get that moving along. So anyway, thanks.
Any other public comment? I'm not seeing any thoughts and comments from the board. I guess I'm sorry. I was going to say, I can suggest maybe we discuss how we feel about the process last year.
Yeah, we went over this last year quite a bit, and I think the consensus was that we had, for me anyway, that I found out from hearing from the people that show up to these meetings, a lot of people that are, doing travel sports or have kids. Those are the people I talk to a lot, obviously. They do need and want absentee secret ballot just to be able to get their vote out there, and that's why we added the public hearings so that people can come, discuss, have a sense of community, all the cool parts about it. That's what we are here to do and talk about and come forth and figure out, and for those people to get educated and then go to secret ballot so you do get the numbers of the people weighing in on those things. Like we said earlier, people that aren't around, people that are out of state, they can't absentee ballot vote with a open town meeting. So I think that's the best of both worlds, obviously, but that's just my thought on that. I think the other thing I think in theory, some of it, you can't be perfect, all of it. I mean, you can't move numbers around and stuff, but I think if you're going to have, I don't know how many people are going to show up again. We've had as low as 30. And that includes the staff that are here and the people that are there. And then you have, I don't have them in front of me. I did have them when I did all of this numbers last year. I went through with a fine-tooth comb over every single election over the past 15 years and figured out, which was which. We had a good selection of open and secret ballot because of the way things used to be versus the way they are now. So it wasn't like a 1 or 2 year here and a 40 year here of numbers. It was compiled pretty evenly, and it was way more, obviously, votes for the secret ballot. So I was in favor of that part of it. And as far as changing the numbers, I think it's just hard if you're going to have those people there. Like I said, you have 1,000. I don't know how you're going to, what number you're going to change. Are you going to get it down to $1? You're going to have these people over here at this set amount. I mean, to change a warrant, that you need to be coming to the budget finance meetings. You need to probably be more involved if you're wanting to be the voice of changing a number that's going through. We have all the committees, they recommend them or they don't recommend them, and then they get sent through. You elect these officials to do a job, and hopefully they're competent enough to get it done and get it to the people, and then it's on there for recommendations or not. So that's my feelings.
Chris?
I see both sides. I like the open town meeting. I think last year was better than just doing a secret ballot, having the public informed and having a chance to speak. Do I think we could improve? Maybe. I think this is just a discussion tonight. We're not going to make a decision. So I think that we should look at ways to improve on what we did last year and maybe doing a better, I don't want to use the word hybrid, but maybe we do a combination of open meeting and ballots and making sure that people can do absentee. How that all works, I don't know the answer, but I think that we should look into it and do a little more before we make a decision.
Sam, did you have any thoughts?
No.
Last year, I was on the fence, could go either way. I'm still there. I would love to see our community get together and be for something and not just get together when we're all against something. And I think that would be really important. But I also agree with absentee ballots. People are busy. It's not the same community it was 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. A lot of things have changed. COVID really changed some things, good and bad. And the reason why I ask about, the process last year is because I think it's a move in the right directions toward trying to appease as many people as you can and try to bring as many people to the table as you can. So I'm still in favor of continuing with that process and improving and fine-tuning it and trying to get better. I know this is a discussion item only, but that's where I sit with that right now.
I do have one other thing to add on that. I think as we move forward and hopefully transition over to that building, I think it'll be easier and funner and a better event to have the public hearing type meetings with the community involvement, because you will have space for kids to be able to, this is tough. This room isn't great. I mean, these chairs are nice, but these guys, it's not as great. So, I mean, I think as we move forward and we have other things, I think it would be easier to be able to do that, to have more people show up.
Last words on this for tonight?
Oh, I'm good.
No.
Okay, then I suggest we move on. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. And now we are on to public comment.
Beloved to Levitt Road. So first and foremost, thank you to Dennis Morris for his service to our community. And I want to express some admiration for Kayla Gonzalez for her courage and dedication to our community through this unfair and hateful recall process. So thank you. It just as far as just a point, and I know this is going to be discussed at the next select board meeting, but I would just ask that the town manager and the select board or whatever get together with the attorneys, because I'll tell you, I'm confused. As I read Section 9 of the Recall and Appointments Ordinance, and that is the section that deals with basically the special election. the 90 days is mentioned in a context with if there is not a regularly scheduled election within 90 days. But as I read it, it's silent as far as addressing the attorney's opinion that calling the election is not holding the election. So the requirement to call the election is clear. But holding the election, I just like, hopefully, and I know you'll get to the bottom of it, exactly what does the attorney mean by that? I'd also be curious to know if the attorneys made that interpretation prior to discussion with the interim town manager and the select board, where you got the impression that the 90 days was the limit. But I'm sure you'll investigate that. But it does go to my third point, which is in my opinion, and I've been talking about this since October, when I will tell you that that's when I first became aware that there was such a thing as a recall ordinance in the town of Raymond, because we had never used it. It was put together in 2012, and I'd love to be able to poll the people in attendance right now and ask them, how many of you were aware of a recall ordinance in the town of Raymond prior to the recall being initiated? So I'm going to use public comment for what my understanding in parliamentary procedure is really intended for, and that's to ask that the select board place on a future agenda prior to the public hearing on the warrant for the June election, a consideration of revisions to the current recall and appointments ordinance, which I believe, even from the attorneys, are a little bit conflicted on exactly what it means. Because, and I'm not going to get into detail, because everyone sitting up there is intelligent enough to look at this and say that when Bernstein Sure makes a comment that under the home rule authority outlined in the Maine Constitution, and the municipalities may adopt local recall ordinances that provide for recall mechanisms that applies broadly for any reason. And I would ask any reasonable person, is that a good policy? For any reason. And then they go on to say many municipalities throughout the state have done so and have recalled various officials through such mechanisms. I don't doubt that. But I would love to sit down with Bernstein Shore and just basically say, but you know what? I can cite as many municipalities in this state over the last decade that have revised their recall ordinances, because what they found is that they were too vague and that they promoted abuse. And therefore, that would be my ask of the select board, that be placed on an agenda and with the potential of putting it to the people in June. Are you satisfied with this ordinance? Do you want to revise it? Or do you want to repeal it? And the worry that, well, if you repeal that, then you're really not allowing the community to have access to getting rid of someone who's really a danger to the community and they're in a leadership role. Because, communities have done that, even in the last couple of years. They repeal their own inadequate ordinance, and then it just defaults to the state, which has an ordinance, particularly for that reason. If a community doesn't have one, the state provides one. And what the state provides is an extremely narrow cause, which I would not support, any more than I would support our ordinance, which says for any reason, which I believe is the absolute opposite of a narrow. It's as broad as it can be. And in my opinion, anti-democratic. Thank you.
Peter. David Brown, Tenny Hill Road. Just not reiterate what was just said much, except that I agree with the reading of this Article 9 in here, the Section 9. When you read this, 90 days. Up above, it was very clear as to the number of days in terms of when the recall election would happen. And so is the state's recall election ordinance. The state's ordinance ends at the recall election and doesn't describe what happens after that. But we did, and yet we used different words from the recall ordinance, which actually set a timeline for the election itself. And then this section 9, which uses just much different wording. It just talks about this thing that was discussed much earlier about the 30 to 45 days, and then it has this, if there is not already a scheduled election within 90 days of certification. So we're looking at the certification date to set the 90 days. Now looking at the calendar, 90 days from today is obviously April 13, and the school vacation week is the week after that. Now, in going back to that previous discussion, it seems to me that there's a little wiggle room, there's plenty of wiggle room in this wording. This wording is so non-committal as to when the election happens that you could easily just say somewhere within, that school vacation week is great, let's just do it. That's that on that. I just want to go back to the town meeting thing in terms of town meeting today. If we held an open town meeting today, it would be a lot different from the town meetings that probably scared off a lot of people. Because when we talked about the public safety facility meeting, I'm sure that public safety facility meeting didn't actually take all day, because a town meeting back then covered the school as well. And that was very contentious, and lots of people showed up because lots of people are parents. And a couple of things happened over the years, and one was that the school budgeting, the state budgeting cycle changed to later and later in the year. And so our town itself we actually voted on when the town meeting would be as a group, and we kept moving it. You'll look at the town warrants, you'll see it moved from, I'm not sure, someone said it actually happened in March.
Used to be the second weekend in March.
That someone said that. and then it went to April and May and June, and it doesn't need to be there at all. And I know this year is difficult because we're behind on our budgeting, and we're behind on this replacing somebody from the recall election. So it would be a big ask to move it back a month and into May. But as was brought up, June is busy with sports and graduations and proms and whatever, all that stuff that happens. I think we could get more people, not the numbers we used to have probably, but we could have a lot better participation if we just could move it back a month and start from there. So it seems kind of premature to me to take a vote this June on whether we'll have a secret ballot or an open meeting, because we'd still be in that June cycle and we'd still get the same people. So that'd be unfortunate. I'd also just want to mention that when that was mentioned tonight in these comments, it's clear to me that there wasn't ever a vote, or perhaps even a select board vote, to change to a closed secret ballot meeting. Now, maybe you'll find that somewhere if you look at the history, that it was voted on by the select board, but I'm not aware of that. So I think that would have normally had to be voted on. Over here.
Grace Levitt, Levitt Road. I have 3 topics. I'll try to, again, be quick. Thank you for your patience this evening and listening to a lot of comment. I'm hoping that the questions that have been raised previously, months ago, about the 23-24 audit have been resolved. And there were a lot of questions about finances in the town. I don't know what the answers were. I'm hoping the Select Board and the Budget Committee have had good answers to the questions that had been being raised for a number of months. And I'm wondering where we stand with whatever the current audit date is, if that's been resolved, and for that matter, a complete annual report and that whole process. Just kind of keep those questions out there. If everything's been resolved and answered and I'm just not aware of it, that's great. But if those questions have not yet been answered, I hope that they will be soon. And just a concern when you read in the paper about our neighboring town of Gray having questions about their finances. It's really critical that all of that is very clear and transparent to our community and to all the voters. Different topic, I would ask, and it was really much better this evening. I would ask that select board members or any committee members that are meeting refrain from any side conversations amongst themselves. It is a public meeting. We need to hear what's being said. That has happened in the past quite a bit, sometimes at length. I mean, it's, a quick, yes or no kind of a question. I'm not talking about that, but there was some lengthier side conversations happening, along with, I was told that, I guess it was the December 9th meeting, there was a Zoom chat going on for those that were on Zoom. And who knows what was being said there, but we have to get up to the podium and the microphone to speak, and so I would hope that the chat is not available whenever somebody's attending on Zoom, unless there's a good reason for that, but I think that could be detrimental in some respects. I guess there were some comments made that were not appropriate. Totally different topic. I wanted to be sure of a couple of things as regard the RSU. It's a goal of the RSU Board of Directors to really improve on communications, really making great strides, especially about the budget. There's a great document that the RSU 14 Board of Directors Finance Committee has put together on the budget process and some information about the budget, and they will keep updating that. It is available through a link, on the agenda for the Finance Committee. If you go to the RSU 14 website, and if you go to the School Board tab, and then you go to the committees, and you go to the Finance Committee, the agenda has the links right there to a Google Doc. It's also available a couple of other places on the website for the RSU 14, and that will be updated. They're also planning on holding some informational sessions so that the Finance Committee can help the full community of the RSU to understand the budget process and to be sure that people are really informed and understanding it, and not just coming to the May hearing on the budget and asking questions there, but having an understanding of the full process as it is being built now. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I have that. I got it yesterday. I can forward that on to Glenn.
To the rest of the select board.
Yeah, wherever. Well, the select board, but also if Glenn has it, he can put it out maybe on the town website or something like that.
That'd be great.
It's an easier find than trying to connect all the dots.
Yes, and on our website, I'd mentioned before on the town website that I appreciate that the school newsletter, that's another part of the communication from the RSU 14. It hasn't been updated with the January one yet, so hopefully that can be. I know people have been busy, but if that could be updated when it's available, that'd be great. It is right on the RSU 14 website. It lists the different meetings and what the topics are that are being addressed at those meetings. Each of the school buildings, the administrators have been giving presentations on the state of the school. So those presentations, again, are also right through the agenda. You can see those or watch the meetings if you want to watch some more meetings. But also the Facebook page for the RSU has them readily available. So you can see all the really good stuff that everybody in the school district is doing for the kids. The projects kids are doing, work that's being done in curriculum. I am truly, truly amazed and impressed with the district that we are so fortunate to be a part of. A lot of really good work going on. So I hope some people will take a time that presentations aren't all that long, and you'll just be better informed about all that goes into the RSU 14 and the importance of the budget and supporting that going forward. Let's see, trying to do this in a way. Let's see. So they are on there on the Facebook page. It's RSU 14 Wyndham Raymond Schools is the Facebook page. If you have trouble finding it, I'm glad to help. And those are continuing on, and the budget process will continue on as well. There's also going to be a survey coming out from the Finance Committee asking for questions that people have. What would help you understand the school budget and the budgeting process? Last but not least, I definitely want to mention, I mentioned at the December Select Board meeting during public comment that the Wyndham Raymond Adult Ed program for the winter spring was available. It was on the website, and I said this would be coming to your mailbox. It was sent out in mid-December before the holidays. These are the various programs. There's certification programs, there's adult ed programs, there's wellness programs, there's all sorts of really good things that the Wyndham Raymond Adult Ed offers us. I stopped at the post office because I never got one in my mailbox, and so I had to go get one from the Wyndham Raymond Adult Ed office. He was astounded that they hadn't been delivered, because a lot of money is spent to send these to you all, but you should each get one. The post office said they've got a backlog, and they're in your boxes now or coming to them. So again, this is a month ago that you should have received it. So I hope that others are getting it if you haven't yet, and we'd take a look. And it's not too late to sign up for an awful lot of really good things, again, that are available to you as a member of this community. Thank you for listening.
Jennifer Danzig, 38 Pulpit Rock Road. I just want to take a moment just to thank a bunch of people here. Glenn for coming in during a really difficult time in our town and having a lot of grace and putting your head down and getting to work. Very impressed with the stuff that I've seen and how well prepared we are for things and understanding things and supporting our staff. I want to thank Mel and all of our town staff who, have worked under 3 different select boards, multiple town managers, continue to kick ass, get the job done, show up with a smile, just do excellent quality work, educate all of us and help us, get the most out of our town. I wanted to thank Dennis for everything that he's done through his many years of service in the town, from when my littles were little, and Bruce knows all about it. My boys especially having the fire department at my house all the time because somebody had a treadmill drop on their head, or they ate the little pellets in the sneakers, or ate an ornament off the tree. So really appreciate all the service for all of you. I want to welcome the new members to all the boards and thank you for volunteering and stepping up and making a difference in our town. And I do want to call out Mike Richmond, who I know is not here, for the planning board, and also Chris Hansen on the select board, both for the same reason. Really impressed with both gentlemen who sit on the boards, who have the integrity to recuse themselves from issues. The reason that Mike had originally stepped down from the planning board is because there was an issue that he was involved with and cared about deeply, and he thought it was inappropriate that he be on the board because it was such a major issue, and he thought that it tainted his involvement to be on the board and also be spearheading that issue. So appreciated him stepping down for integrity and then coming back when the issue was resolved, because he was a great member of our planning board. And then also to Chris, saw him twice today step down with things that affected him to show that integrity and ethics. I just think it's really important, especially as we see things that are happening nationally that divide us, that we don't let things locally divide us. I come to all these meetings, have for the past couple years, and I was really dreading tonight. Like, I didn't think I was going to speak at all because I just thought, like, oh my God, if I go tonight and it's this whole thing. So I was really very pleased and very heartened to see the respect shown, to see the dignity of Dennis, stepping away and, not making a fuss, to see Kayla stepping in, holding her head high, not making a fuss, just going about the town's business and doing all that they can for all of us, because you all make a difference. All of you, each and every day, and you hear all the criticism. You don't always get the compliments. So I just wanted to take a moment to compliment you, say thank you. We love you. We appreciate you. Even if we don't always agree on policy, you have our love and respect. And keep at it, because you make a real difference in our lives. Thank you.
Dennis Morse. I'm going to say something. I like the tone. This is the first time in a while that I've seen a group in here civil, not groaning and moaning in the back corners when someone said something they didn't like. So I'm going to point out a few things that I've noticed. 25 people were here at the meeting, and I think there was 16 on Zoom. 2, both the clerk and the town manager were the only 2 that were non-residents. If you think about that, what we heard is that's who used to show up at a town meeting. And believe me, I see it as more than that. But this is important because when we started in June, when I first took the chair, I said one day I hope to see this place filled with civil, good conversation. So I'm very grateful to see that happen, whether I'm on the board or not. It's really, really nice to see. So I want to show some gratitude to some people too. Everyone who voted. I was shocked that 260 people came out and voted for me with such a short notice and only one little public notice, or two, one for the public meeting and one for the election. Total of over 500 people showed up in the middle of school break. That was impressive. You know, say what you want to. I mean, I expected a blowout by 300 people to sign a petition, 300 people against me, all the negativity that was thrown this way. But I feel good. I really feel good that the people showed up and supported me, and the phone calls I've got since. So to the 461 people that did vote for me a few years back, I hope I didn't disappoint you. Glenn, I told you this was a great town, and you're seeing it tonight. Sam, I love you. Kayla, you did a great job. I'm glad you hung in there. I told you you'd be a better chair than me. That was an exaggeration. But this town is much more than this recall. This recall is over and done with. There'll be an election, we'll move on. I do believe the Select Board will move on in correcting the recall ordinance for all the reasons that the people have spoken from before. But I want to thank everyone who voted, both the ones that voted against me as well as the one that voted for me, especially the ones who voted for me, because it matters. It matters that 550 people showed up. It matters that there's 35, 40 people here tonight. This wasn't a call out. We didn't call around and say, please show up. Oh, they did tell Kyle. I said, I really like how you talk. Please come tonight. That's for transparency. And the rest of you, it's important. If we have more of these meetings, the town will grow. We'll go back to when we had Founders Day and everyone was eating fried dough. And I'm not talking about a Founders Day. I'm just talking about getting together where we could run around, the kids could play. The reason I get up to tell you all the gratitude I had is because Raleigh's not here tonight to add that light humor she always had. So I'm speaking on behalf of that good sense. So thank you all.
Thank you, Dennis.
Any other public comment? All right, I'm going to close public comment. Just want to make note that I did look at Zoom and I don't see anyone's hand up. Moving on to Select Board comment. Is there any comments tonight?
No, I don't think I don't need to. They were made.
Chris?
I would echo what Sam just said. I appreciate all the comments tonight, the discourse, the civility of this meeting, the people that have showed up, all the volunteers. I would like to have a shout out to Public Works for going and taking care of these nuisance storms and keeping our roads plowed and doing an excellent job. And I know how tired they are. I'd like to thank all the staff at the town hall for going through this period where it was very tense and very contentious at the town hall. I want to move forward and look forward to a brighter future and calmer times and calmer seas.
Do you have anything, Derek?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. I do not have any. We'll move on to the town manager's report and communications.
Sure. So I'll start with some good news that I think most people are looking forward to, which is when you wake up Monday morning, hopefully there is a new town website for you to browse, which will have information that's easier to find and more, our policies, our ordinances, our agendas. So I just want to thank everybody that worked on that project, Melissa, Kevin, Joe, who started it, and everybody else that contributed to that. So Kevin will be doing the cutover sometime Sunday night, burning the midnight oil, to have that up and running for you on Monday. And don't hold me to it when tech delays happen, but that's what we're shooting for, Monday morning. Then just a couple other things, just to kind of go over. So procurement policy has come up. I spoke with Chair and Vice Chair of Finance last week, and the board and I have informally discussed looking at the town's procurement policy. I just kind of wanted to report out that, we've started and undertaken that work. I've drafted a preliminary policy, circulated it to the Finance Committee. But at this time, I'm going to pause that work, and my recommendation is I'm going to focus staff capacity on the FY 27 budget development and the upcoming workshops, and also prioritize a timely audit, which, as we all know, will be delayed, as we discussed at the December 9th meeting. And the board had previously authorized the use of some contingency for some temp staff. So the finance director and I have decided to move forward with the next phase of previous town manager's implementation of the Town Cloud AP system. So the reason I want to pause that procurement policy is I would like to make that cut over in March, get the new AP system up and running, and Town Cloud has generously offered to waive the implementation fee. And the reason we've done that instead of temps is they've also offered their CPAs that they have on staff to assist with reconciliation, and also an automated tool that they've developed for reconciliation that should reduce staff time. So I'd like to focus our capacity on that, and as I continue to monitor the budget, if any additional contingencies needed, I'll come to you, but we should be able to sunset the Trio AP module before it's renewed and sort of offset that. But once that's stabilized, I'd like to then revisit procurement so we can build a procurement policy that aligns with the system that we put in place, because we'll be working with Town Cloud 2 as well to develop a PO system after we do the AP system. And again, I'm hoping that that's sometime in March that that's completed and start getting us caught up. Last Finance Committee meeting, we discussed tax increment financing. I'm only bringing that up tonight because I'd like to see if the board would like me to invite the assessor and the town attorney to our next regular meeting to kind of give a TIF primer, benefits, what are the next steps, because, you know, the timeline that sort of we discussed at that meeting would be quite compressed if you wanted to successfully implement a district before the OAV of the reval went into effect. So you would probably have to shoot for a November special town meeting to create a TIF district if that was the appetite of the select board. That being said as well, if there are zoning changes that are required for what's outlined in the comp plan, that's another layer to that too. There's ordinance work that needs to be done. But again, I'd like to just kind of, if the board wants, invite Phil and Kurt to the next meeting to kind of just talk about TIFs.
I would appreciate that.
Okay. And then last, I'm not going to put Bruce on the spot, but he decided to come to the meeting tonight. We're wrapping up contract negotiations with the IAFF, and I anticipate bringing that to the board for ratification at the next meeting. Would that be safe? Yeah. Other than that, I'm sure I can think of other things, but that's the most I've got for you at the moment.
I noticed there's dates for the upcoming regular meeting. February 10th, I do have a conflict.
I do too.
Okay. Like I said, our later discussion will probably require we have a meeting sooner anyway to meet that statutory timeline. So we'll have one sooner at least, but is there another date for the regular meeting that would work for you all?
I think I can do the 3rd.
I am open the 3rd
I can do the 3rd.
and the 17th, so on either end.
Let's hold both because my initial conversations with Phil and Kurt were based on that 10th meeting, so let's keep both to see which one they can do. And we may need it anyway because we've got a lot of stuff going on. So let's have 2. We can cancel one if we need to.
Is everybody okay with March 10th? As it stands
I'm
right
good.
now? Okay, looks like we're good on that. I don't see anything under upcoming holidays and closures.
Nope, the only holiday coming up is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, but we're already closed, so.
All right, so next on our agenda are 2 executive sessions, and we will plan to adjourn after those. So I'd be looking for a motion for the board pursuant to Title 36 MRSA 841-2 for a poverty abatement application. Moved. And is there a second, Derek? Thank you. And all those in favor to move into executive session? All right. Hi, welcome back. I'm looking for a motion to close executive session or to leave executive session.
I make that motion that we exit the executive session.
And a second, please. Derek?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. And then I would like a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056A, discussion of personnel matters.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and all those in favor? Okay. Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to exit executive session.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, I'm gonna do Derek, because I saw your hand up, with a second of Sam. All those in favor? Okay. And then I need a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second. And all those in favor? All right, thank you.